Well, we all know that Southeast Asia is part of a bigger entity, sometimes called Asia Pacific, sometimes East Asia, which is now seen as the economic dynamo of the world. So being a part of that tremendous development effort is a bonus to any external participant, and Russian Federation is very much interested in becoming deeper involved in cooperation with the countries of this area, apart from many other things, because it is also an East Asian power. As you know, we have the longest Pacific coastline. Geography is a major prerequisite. I think tremendous economic potential of Russia is another one, and the understanding and the political will of our leaders is one more ingredient, which on the whole results in Russia's reorientation towards Asia, including the Philippines. Well, Russia-ASEAN relations started in 1991, when Russia was not Russia, but the Soviet Union at that time, was invited to attend the post-ministerial ASEAN conference. Then, with the breakup of the Soviet Union, when Russia emerged on the international arena, it took over and it became the participant in these interactions. In 1996, Russia was acknowledged as ASEAN's official dialogue partner, and has been enjoying that status ever since. Last year we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Russia-ASEAN dialogue partnership with the commemorative summit in Sochi, in the south of Russia, on the Black Sea coast. I think it was quite a unique moment when all the leaders of ASEAN, interestingly, without President-elect Duterte, because at that time he had not yet gone through the inauguration, assembled in Sochi to meet President Putin and to discuss various aspects of our cooperation, including the possibility of cooperation between Eurasian Economic Union, of which Russia is now a member, and ASEAN. This is a new theme, and this is something that can potentially result in ASEAN becoming a participant in the development of Big Eurasia, how it is called now. So I would say that there are quite a number of new and promising elements in the relationship between Russia and ASEAN. While doing overviews of Russia-ASEAN interactions, some observers used to say that there is what they called an information gap between Russia and ASEAN, meaning that further development of cooperation is restrained by a lack of reliable information about each other. Then, of course, it was noted that our economic cooperation is lagging behind the high degree of political and security understanding. And of course, what was desirable was also a lively people-to-people interaction. I think the sum of these factors resulted in the decision to create something, not something very big, but rather something flexible and quick to move and to respond to the emerging needs in the field of cooperation, create a unit which will try to support Russia-ASEAN interactions in all these fields. In the year 2009, then Secretary General of ASEAN Surin Pitsuwan and the rector of MGIMO University, Professor Turkunov, signed a memorandum of understanding about the creation of ASEAN Center. Now, maybe it is appropriate that I say a few words about the selection of this university, why it was trusted with the task of establishing ASEAN Center and launching it. This university was created in 1944 at the end of the Second World War, when it was already clear that the Soviet Union is destined to play a special role in the post-war world, and there was a clear feeling that the country will need a new generation of diplomats. So it was practically a diplomatic school which evolved in time into what it is now, not just one or two schools, but a dozen of them, and it continues to grow and to reformat what it already has established, to change with the times. I do not think there is any analog to MGIMO. This Russian abbreviation, by the way, stands for Moscow State Institute for International Relations. Its unique achievement is the fact that during the little more than 70 years of its history, it produced more than 500 Soviet and Russian ambassadors. One of them is one of the MGIMO alumni is our present Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Another one is the MGIMO rector Anatoly Turkunov. Anyway, we also have quite a long tradition of studying Southeast Asian languages, including Filipino, by the way, or Tagalog, whichever way you prefer to call your national language. I must admit that we do not have a Tagalog program now, but it was established way back in the late 1950s and has produced, again, quite a number of highly qualified diplomats, many of whom served in the Philippines more than once, especially since in 1976 we finally established full diplomatic relations, the 40th anniversary of which was celebrated last year. When we talk about the value of ASEAN in a geopolitical sense, as a regional player, I think we can't help but remember the word centrality. What does it mean, and how ASEAN managed to secure this central position for itself? I think in this part of the world, by the time the Cold War ended, there were no real beginnings of a regional security system. Of course, if you do not consider, and I think it cannot be considered as a regional institution, the set of American bilateral security arrangements with some countries of the region. ASEAN has emerged by that time and seriously consolidated its position by the later admittance of Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia. ASEAN has already had established its reputation as a very trustful and reliable player who cannot impose anything on anybody, but who at the same time had demonstrated the ability to achieve compromise, to move in a step-by-step way towards solutions of difficult regional issues. So ASEAN never represented a threat to anybody around it. So all the extra-regional players who are involved in the affairs of Southeast Asia found it useful to entrust ASEAN with that central mission. It was very much viewed as an honest broker, if you wish, to propose solutions or approaches to conflicts, to difficult questions, which separate the countries of the bigger East Asia. So this quality of ASEAN is really unique, and this is what allowed ASEAN to create within the time span of just 1 decade, ASEAN Regional Forum, the East Asian Summit, then a little later, the ASEAN Ministers of Defense Conference with the dialogue partners, which by now form, I would say, major construction blocks, what may become in future their serious regional security system. ASEAN is, I think, as ASEAN as a coordinator of the regional security agenda, ASEAN has proved its usefulness many times. And today, there is practically nothing that can be relied upon in terms of regional security if ASEAN is not there. Well, I did produce one, but a big one, book in 2 volumes, with a total number of pages exceeding 1,000, which is actually a conglomerate of smaller monographs, and which is my humble attempt to approach the revolution of EDSA, which startled so many people in the Philippines itself and in the world, to find explanations to difficult questions, like, for instance, by the time it occurred, the Philippines had gone through 2 years and a half of civil strife, of various oppositional political campaigns. The situation was tense. There were signs that some oppositional forces which were supporting the violent overthrow of the existing power were gaining strength. So many different outcomes of this conflict were anticipated, but not what happened. So it was, to me, it was like an invitation to look for reasons in the history, in the culture, and the habits of the people, in the kind of mindset which they developed as a result of their long history. So it is not just a study in politics. It's a study in many aspects of Filipino life to come to a more reliable conclusion, which is already referring to politics. That's why it is, and because of the festive aspects of EDSA, I called it Fiesta Filipina, to emphasize the joyful part of it. I've been twice there since President Duterte was elected, but these were rather brief visits, and I'm not sure I can make any serious generalizations. But my feeling is that this is a popular government, that President Duterte is certainly a legitimate leader who is enjoyed due to his determination to change the life of the ordinary people for the better. What he says about it and his political moves are sometimes characterized as populist, but I do not find anything wrong with it. I think there are many visible aspects of inequality in the Philippines who call for urgent solutions, and judging by what he says, he's seeking them, and he wants to work for such solutions. So this, I think, is one of my major impressions. Otherwise, I would say that the Philippines remains very much itself. People are joyful. People are enjoying themselves. I think the Filipinos are, in some ways, a unique nation in the sense that they enjoy themselves, really. They do not dislike themselves. They do not want to be somebody else. They want to be themselves. Their solution And I think this is based on the expertise of some very competent economists who are working with this administration and in this administration. President Duterte is thinking about bringing some new dynamism into the economy through major infrastructure projects, which is natural for a country, for an archipelagic country with a difficult terrain, with many mountainous areas. Infrastructure in general is seen today as an important precondition for economic growth, so I think this is a wise thing to plan and to do. I was in the Philippines last November. I talked to many people trying to figure out what, in their opinion, this country needs from potential economic partners and whether Russia can provide that. I would say that the subjects most often talked about were electricity and power and energy in general, and once again, infrastructure. Russia has gone itself through massive efforts to upgrade its infrastructure, its energy capacities, and it has all the opportunities to provide expertise and production potential to assist the Philippines in the solution of these tasks. But apart from that, and unlike many rating agencies or analytical teams in the West try to assure its audience, Russia is making good progress in innovative economy, in IT, in various very modern industrial varieties of industrial production. So it can offer a lot more than just these two things to the Philippines. I think the important thing is to start, and then as in the process of closer interaction, there will be more knowledge about the abilities and the potential of the partner, and we will make progress. To my mind, I think what is important is the interest of the Filipinos. All these cooperation schemes are based on reciprocity. If there is a will on the other side, and if there is a will on the other side, they have to be able to find a way to achieve what each of them wants. Well, I would say that both the Philippines and Russia are stable and governable countries, and I cannot sense right now any serious political reason why we should not cooperate. On the contrary, I think some aspects of Russian domestic and foreign policy are now better understood in the Philippines and in the presidential palace. And President Duterte, in fact, indicated more than once that he has a high appreciation of what President Putin does for Russia. All the Asean countries are welcome in Russia as friends and partners, and Filipinos and the Philippines is no exception. The Philippines is receiving, I would say, a higher portion of attention today due to its chairmanship in the Asean in the year of ASEAN's 50th anniversary. I think a lot more attention is given to the Philippines because of its new presidential administration. So let us capitalize on the greater visibility of the Philippines in Russia and of Russia in the Philippines.